You know, there is an old adage that good teams win and great teams cover. And this team just covered again, a trap game, the trickiest game that we were going to play this season, getting ready for Alabama. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, instant overreaction.
You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Get fired up, Rebel fans. Hi, I'm Stephen Willis, and this is the instant overreaction of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in this late evening. If you're watching this on Sunday, we appreciate that as well. Anyway, Ole Miss was a 48-23 winner over Georgia Tech in a game that I spent all week. I cautioned people all week that winning by 1 point would be enough. And maybe that was me just setting the bar way too low. But Ole Miss really came out and performed. It was only 10-3 at halftime. That's what's hard to believe. The score at halftime was 10-3. Very sluggish start to the game. A couple of, like a fourth down play that was, we'll get into that in just a second. But I do want to talk about this real quick. This is kind of the box score. When you look at the passing yardage, Georgia Tech had 310 yards. To Ole Miss's 250 yards. Ole Miss 13.2 yards per attempt. You look at the overall, there's the box score there. Haynes King threw for 312 yards. Haynes King had a really good day. We talked about things to watch for and mentioned his comfort level. There was a stretch in the second half, real similar to the Louisville game, where he felt comfortable. And they actually started to cook a little bit. Jordan Watkins played pretty well. Dayton Wade played pretty well indeed. If you look at time of possession, Ole Miss had the ball for 20 minutes and 43 seconds. I think that's a statement more of how explosive this team was than anything else. Georgia Tech played really, really slow. They didn't really have the athletes that Ole Miss had, so they had to play slow. They were able to generate some first downs. They were able to stay on schedule. All this stuff that we talked about Buster Faulkner and the Georgia Tech offense being pretty good. They ended up putting like 477 yards up, and they actually did a really, really, really good job. If you look at Jaxson Dart, he was 10 of 18, 251 yards and a touchdown, QBR of 191. He was just nails today, everybody. He absolutely nails. If you look at rushing, Jaxson Dart, 14 for 136, averaged 10 a carry, 2 touchdowns with a long of 68. Ulysses Bentley, 61 yards. Quinshon Judkins, 37. He was a little bit nicked up, but you could tell whenever 4 comes in the game, the defense is kind of queued up on him. Dayton Wade on the jet sweep did that as well. He showed out pretty well. If you look at tackling on defense, Suntarian Perkins, the number 5 defensive tackler, he had 5 tackles, had some nice sticks during the game. Kari Coleman showed up. Ashim Young showed up. Jeremiah Jean-Baptiste. I mean, these are all linebackers and safeties, and that pretty much says a lot about this defense. And if you look at them receiving, Jordan Watkins had the big play, 119 yards and a touchdown. Dayton Wade at the end of the game, they should have reviewed that. He may have scored. Quinshon had a big catch as well. That was that play that Jaxson Dart kind of ad-libbed a little bit, and Aiden Williams had that catch to start the game as well. That's how it went. And I was pretty impressed with what I saw, especially in the second half of that game. Now, there's a couple of things. I wanted to see some quick passing. I saw that. There were some hitches run. There were some slants run. There's some quick hitting plays at the tight end. It didn't necessarily work, but they tried to do the pop pass to the tight end in the end zone, and they also tried to hit Michael Trigg in the corner of the end zone that the officials blatantly missed a holding call. That was on that fourth down stop on third down was a blatantly missed holding call. And then on fourth down, the cornerback just kind of made a good play and broke up the pass there. But that was on that pop pass. There were hitches. There were jet sweeps. There were runs outside. It was not all inside run. There was some gap scheme stuff to go with their zone scheme stuff. Offensively, this was a much better called football game than the Tulane game. There's really no way that you can get around that at all. And I'm pretty excited about where this could go, and I'm going to lose myself a little bit later. But I like the play calling that they on offense. Sure, Jaxson Dart only had 251 yards in the second half. He was like 6 of 7 for 150 yards passing. Some ludicrous amount. They averaged 10 yards per play for the game. That's a first down per play. That was on only 59 plays. And like I said, that was more because they were explosive than because they were porous. And Georgia Tech played really, really slow, and they were able to move the chains a little bit, and they did a good job, and Haynes King did a good job. Like, Georgia Tech just didn't have the athletes to win this game. And we told you this in the pregame. If everything goes well, if Ole Miss plays clean, and in the second half, they got a little bit sloppy. The only time they didn't score touchdowns is when there was a weird holding call somewhere. They basically got Micah Pattis for pancaking somebody, got Quincy McGee just for pancaking somebody. There were some kind of weird penalties that happened during this ball game. And like I said, I don't want to complain too much about that. It happens, but it was in a situation to where whenever Ole Miss got really behind the chains, that was the times they struggled in the game. Whenever there was the threat of Jaxson Dart running the football and the running back running the football to go with the pass, as long as there was a chance that both could happen, Ole Miss was unstoppable tonight. The only person that could stop Ole Miss was Ole Miss. And Georgia Tech defensively, they do not have the defensive line that Tulane has. Everybody knows that. But the offensive line played better. The offensive line really did the stuff that they needed to do to be better, to protect Jaxson, to basically just look a lot better than they did last week. They cleaned up a lot of the stuff offensive line-wise that people were upset about in week one. Jaxson Dart, though. I hate this phrase, by the way. I think it's the most overused phrase in sports, but he's a dog. He just is. He basically took this game over and willed this team to the point where there was no way they were going to lose this game. There was just no way that they were going to be behind the 8 ball. Now, problematic stuff that we saw tonight, and there's some stuff they still need to clean up. Defensively, I think they need to play with their rotations much. I noticed Jared Ivey playing some 3 technique, being on the field at the same time with Isaac Ukwu and Cedric Johnson. That was a weird thing for me, and that means the defensive line is a little bit undersized. That's the reason it looked like sometimes there was Georgia Tech getting some push on their zone plays. There was too much athleticism on this zone play when they were running and they were spread out and accordion out than there normally is. In the second half, they used mostly, I think I saw Josh Harris in there a little bit. I saw him in there beside JJ Pegues, and the defensive line was a little bit bigger. And once they got bigger and they was able to push around a little bit the line of Georgia Tech, it was a little bit harder of a move. And once Haynes King had to pass, and we knew he was going to pass, it was tough sledding at that point. The defense in the red zone was fantastic. Now, in the second half, they got some stuff to clean up, and they can look on the film and they can do all of that stuff. But the first half, They were absolute nails in the red zone. This is a well-coached unit. And I talked about this defense in the preseason. I was like, this is what we can expect from this defense. And I was saying the whole goal of this defense will be to get possessions back for the offense. And I said this defense would be clunky. But I also said this defense would be good at something. And at that point, I didn't know what it was, whether it was getting after the quarterback or forcing turnovers or good in the red zone. What appears this team is good in the red zone. After 3 games, after that sample size, it appears this team is pretty good in the red zone. Now, they had a bust that allowed the touchdown on 4th down tonight. And Zamari Walton, I hope he's okay. Well, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But that looked like it may have been a dislocated shoulder or a collarbone or something like that. But we're in good shape. We are probably now, if you're looking at just the wins and how we have performed, we are the most impressive team in the Southeastern Conference. I know that's absolutely weird to say that, but it's true. At the moment, going into this right now, we are the most impressive team in the Southeastern Conference. That nobody else has looked as good as us through 3 games. Now, reality-wise, and it just makes me think, Ole Miss is probably, I would say, the second best team. Because Georgia, whenever they turned it on in the second half today, when they turned it on the second half, they really took it to South Carolina, and they looked like the big boy that they are. And I think Ole Miss is still a little bit behind them. But if you look at the other teams, LSU looked really good today. LSU would have an argument with Ole Miss to be in that next thing. And we have a question real quick, just so I don't miss it. They asked if Chris Graves cleared to play. He's played this year. He's actually participated in games this year. He's just a new guy, and there's a lot to learn. And so he'll eventually catch up, and as the season goes on, he'll be better and better a player. And we'll talk about the LSU-Mississippi State game in just a little bit. Mark Coleman asks, is LSU getting good or is State just bad? And I think the answer to that is yes. LSU, they're good. When the quarterback's on, they're good. When State, Will Rogers is not that dude. He's just not. I think Mike Wright is going to be the starting quarterback by the time the Egg Bowl happens. I just legitimately think that. So what was I saying? Okay. Ole Miss is probably the second best team in the SEC right now. Ole Miss is probably going to be the trendy favorite. Now, maybe not point spread, but just the trendy favorite that they're going to pick to beat Alabama next week. And I would put Ole Miss as the betting favorite for that game. I think Ole Miss is probably a 2 or 3 point favorite in that game. I think whenever you watch the games and watch the teams played, Ole Miss is in a better spot than Alabama. But I do caution people. This Alabama team looks very much unlike Nick Saban teams. They just don't look like Nick Saban-based teams. And they look more like Mike Shula-based teams. And like I said in the pregame show, Mike Shula teams beat Ole Miss. And we need to keep that in mind going over there. Tuscaloosa has been a house of horrors. There's still 4 and 5 stars all over the field for Alabama. So while you look at Alabama and understand that they are the woundedest animal, I think that I just made up a word. They're a wounded animal. Understand that they can strike, and they're probably more dangerous than they have been. Now, one thing that I found interesting in the South Florida game today is that Jalen Milroe, whenever Buckner got benched, because Buckner started the game, got benched, and it was Ty Simpsons that came in and Jalen Milroe didn't play. Why? What happened there? That feels like something's going on. So, but anyway, so I am pretty excited. I'm going to get to y'all's questions and everything into the chat in just a second. I want to add this. This team offensively clicked for the first time this year. In the fourth quarter, this team clicked. And that is because of stuff that I've asked for, I've wanted, I've talked about on the podcast for months. Whether running the ball other than the inside zone to where you change the spot that you're attacking running the football, running the quarterback to make sure it's not the same person to where you can't just focus on one person, short quick passes to make the linebackers worry and try and move certain directions. All of this would eventually open up your whole offense to where it will become so much more dangerous. And let me tell you, there's a next level, and there's a next level that Ole Miss can get to. For Alabama, and like I said, we will not know about injuries until the ball game. Okay? We just won't, because they don't talk about them. They treat them like state secrets. It just kind of is what it is. But Caden Prieskorn is rumored to be coming back for Alabama. When he comes back, Kyron Heath is going to be the number 2 tight end. Michael Trigg's kind of going to drift off into obscurity. In my opinion, he had his chance tonight on back-to-back plays, and he did not make plays. He's dropped 2 touchdown passes during the season, and Lane Kiffin is the type person that whenever you mess up, he will quit calling your number. That's just the way it is. It's a very cutthroat deal, but that's the way it goes. Ask J.J. Henry what happened last season after the beginning of the year. Michael Trigg had his chance tonight. They tried to use him. My prediction was that close to coming true, but Michael Trigg didn't make plays. So against Bama, when Caden Prieskorn comes back, and I think Caden Prieskorn is going to come back, I think Zachary Franklin is going to play a little bit, maybe 10, 11 snaps in the game. I think Trey Harris might be coming back. And the point is, once these weapons come back and this Ole Miss offense becomes so much more effective, and you've got Jordan Watkins, who quietly has 2 100-yard games this season out of 3. He's done a fantastic job out of the slot. Nobody forget about Jordan Watkins. But this Ole Miss team has a chance to be pretty special offensively. And we talk about the defense, what's going on. We have that defense that is going to be to get possessions back for the offense. If there's a situation where we can trade 7 for 3s, we're going to win. We're going to score a lot more touchdowns than the other team. And that is pretty cool. It's a well-coached defense. Whenever you watch them on the back end, they are pretty well-coached. They make plays. They're difficult to beat. The last 3 games, it was like pulling teeth playing offense against the defense, and that's just a testament to Pete Golding. All right, let's go over into the chat. If I missed you a question and you want something asked, ask it again. Put it in there, please. Let's see. Bang Bang Boogle says Dajuan Anthony hasn't looked good. Yes, he looked very good. He's kind of looking like the daddy of the secondary, if you honestly want to think about it. And Ole Miss misses A.J. Finley. They just do. But Anthony has taken up and has been a leader back there in the secondary as a safety. And a game against Alabama, he has a chance to be that Cody Pruitt type player, that Trey Elston type player, if you remember 2015. Anthony will be important in this game. I was not necessarily, I'm just skeptical of Isheem Young. Isheem Young is a nice, undersized linebacker, kind of oversized safety. He played box safety a lot last year. He was the one that bit up on the long pass that really probably was not a catch. Trey Washington also is playing quite well for Ole Miss. So the secondary position, the safety position, is doing pretty well. And then with John Saunders, he's pretty impressive. Our offensive line still needs to start blocking better. Kenneth Ford says that. Well, that's probably true, but that'll always be true no matter how no matter what's going on. It just is. But they run the ball. They run block whenever it's a pass play. It can be tricky. Today, it wasn't so much of a problem because there was more runs on the table as well. Frank Drakeman, Judkins looks uninvested. Do you agree, Stephen? No, I do not agree. I think the difference is the defense is just keying on 4. Whenever 4's in the game, they're concentrating on him, and they're going to run at him completely. Yeah. Greg Ayers says, time to push Pettis down in the rotation and start James and Ackerman. Eli Acker on the right side. Maybe Pettis. I'm worried about the size of Pettis being 360 pounds as well. Should be pretty good. So let's talk about Bama a little bit, and we'll get back in the questions with everybody talking about Alabama. Alabama is the game that I think Ole Miss can win. I think Ole Miss is going to beat Bama. They definitely can beat Bama. The problem is, and this is what you're going to have to deal with playing against a team like Alabama. BYU beat Arkansas. My goodness. It's just college football is just weird, man. Did you see? Did everybody see that South Alabama beat Oklahoma State 33-7? How does that happen? And South Alabama losing to Tulane, does that mean Tulane's better than we thought? Absolutely nuts. James McDonald says Milroe is probably going to start next week from what I've seen tonight. I hope so. Milroe is really good with deep passes, but he's not somebody that is going to drive the field on you. And so it's stop the run, don't get beat with explosives, and all of a sudden you're in good shape. And Alabama does not know who their quarterback is. Yes, it is the worst case scenario for the Alabama Crimson Tide right now. Absolutely nuts. And Connor Quinn with the post of the day, I was just about to say this, says have Perkins shadow Milroe the whole game would be our best bet. Yes. Last year, Harold Perkins, whenever he got famous, was after he spied the quarterback for Arkansas. It was Hornsby at that time. KJ Jefferson didn't play, but Hornsby was known as an elite runner that's super fast. And Perkins spied on him the whole game. And there was just 4 sacks by Perkins, and you have a chance to be something pretty special. I think that will be something that we can do. Perkins today, Haynes King, he is a good runner of the football. He's a 4-4 type quarterback. You might not believe that. He's more of a Matt Jones type runner. For people that are my age or so that remembers Matt Jones, he's a long strider, but he's fast. So they were genuinely concerned about him breaking free to where he could make an explosive play running the football. He wasn't really able to do that more than a couple of times. Yeah, and Caden Hamlin says Suntarian Perkins needs to play for us more. Yes, but remember something that I said a couple of months ago before all the season started. Perkins is going to play as much as he can handle. And they're not going to put him in a situation to where he's going to mess up because that'll screw up his confidence. And Suntarian's probably not going to be the player that Suntarian is going to be next year. Okay. But there's a chance you could ruin a Suntarian as a freshman, if that makes sense. I'm more concerned with Pete Golding not ruining Suntarian in year one and just kind of slowly bringing him along. I think we will see more of him against Alabama and LSU because of the quarterbacks, especially if it's Milroe. You're going to want to have the athleticism. If it's Jaden Daniels, you're going to want to have athleticism. I think you put the spy on them and just kind of let them cook a little bit. So let's see. Boo Boo Defoe says, bro, don't start that we want Bama shit. Did you not learn from Vandy? Oh, come on. I do not have that much power. And B, it's funny. Jacob Holloway says, Bentley looked so good running tonight as well. Yes, he is that speed factor. And this offense really clicks when you have an outside threat and an inside threat. And having Bentley be that outside guy that is so fast, and my goodness, when he goes, he is so fluid when he runs. Yeah, Bentley looks like a plus Jerry and Ely back there in the backfield. And if we figure out how to use him with the Jaxson Dart that has become just this all SEC level player, you have a chance to be pretty successful, I think, in the Southeastern Conference. And let's not forget what was said all week. I talked about this game being a trap and what was going on and everything. And I said during the week that just win this game by one. I don't care about spreads. Ole Miss covered. Easily covered. And I think Ole Miss should be commended for that. I do think genuinely they are right now the second best team in the SEC. The third best team is probably LSU. Tennessee looked like Dookie against Florida today. Alabama looked terrible. USF, if they had a quarterback that could throw the football, USF would have beat Alabama. Alabama just lost to BYU. Arkansas just lost to BYU. So the most impressive win in the Southeastern Conference is probably the Florida Gators at this point. Missouri Wildcats are second. They won that game on the 61-yard field goal. Props to Missouri. And then we're third. And that's kind of where we stand right now. So Connor Quinn says it's not in Dart's DNA to slide. He's got the corral mindset. He's such a top-notch competitor. That is absolutely true. And the difference between him and Corral is about 30 pounds. Jaxson Dart actually has the weight to take the hits that Matt Corral gave. So that's something that everybody should be impressed with as well. Jacob Holloway says, when will the media admit that Dart is the best quarterback in the SEC? Probably let Spencer Rattler lose a couple more ball games. Let Jaden Daniels lose a couple more ball games. Let Jaxson Dart beat Jaden Daniels, and the debate's over at that point. There's not another quarterback in the SEC other than Jaden Daniels and Spencer Rattler that can even compete in this conversation. So let Dart beat Jaden Daniels, and all of a sudden the media will talk about how he'll do. Because I'm going to be honest, tonight, this was a Heisman-type performance for Jaxson Dart tonight. Nobody's going to mention that because it was Georgia Tech. But throwing for over 200 yards, rushing for 100 with 2 touchdowns rushing and a touchdown passing, that's big time. That is absolutely big time. Love this question by Caden Hamlin. Do you think Dart is better than Corral? I think that Matt Corral is the best deep ball thrower that the University of Mississippi has ever seen. I think Matt Corral running the ball, even though he could and he had the talent to do it, is not as good of a runner as Jaxson Dart, as weird as that sounds. I think Jaxson Dart has become, as he's improved on his deep ball and things like that, he has moved up closer to Matt as far as ability. I think the best quarterback that has ever played at Ole Miss is Eli Manning. That hasn't changed, but you do have an argument with like a combination of like Chad Kelly and Matt Corral and Jaxson Dart of who fits in that top five. And it's kind of an interesting situation. And by the way, Colorado State is currently in the third quarter beating Colorado. Shocker, right? Yes, Dart is more mentally sound than Matt Corral. Jordan Ta'amu, definitely underrated. I think the problem Jordan Ta'amu is going to have in this situation is every time he quarterbacked against Alabama, he had Phil Longo's system. So it was a 66-7, a 69-3 game. And that is something that Ta'amu is going to go on there. Mark Walsh asks, is Trigg a bust? And at this point, I think he had his chance tonight. I think once Priestcorn comes back, Kyron Heath is not going to drop down. He was going to be the dude. Michael Trigg is going to drop down to third on the depth chart. So what can you do to Michael Trigg? It's almost like he had his chance. If that makes any sense. Zach Tyler says Dart plays a lot like Corral. He really does. Plus 30 pounds, where he has the body to actually play like Corral. Boo Boo DeFoo says that first play against Bama was nice. Though. Yes, the long touchdown to DK was nice. That was the first time we had like powder blue pom-poms. That's whenever they did that the first time. So it's pretty cool indeed. So everybody be fired up, okay? And everybody be fired up this week because Ole Miss can absolutely beat Alabama. Will they beat Alabama? That's up to the players, up to the game plan. There's a million different ways they can screw this up. But there's a chance that Ole Miss is going to be so up. And with you having a Lane Kiffin to go against a Kevin Steele defense, which is that old school Nick Saban type defense they're running, that Lane Kiffin knows how to affect that. And then the offensive players that Pete Golding knows that he went up against them in practice for years, and he knows them like the back of their hands. Ole Miss is going to know what Alabama is going to do. Probably better than Kevin Steele. Probably better than Tommy Rees. And the offensive line will block better. The plays will be better. There's been no screen passes called this year. There's been no plays like that to take advantage of an aggressive rush. And you will see double moves. You will see screens. You will see them moving the ball and changing the spot that is really hurting the Alabama defense. I think, and I emphasize think here, they could be about to drop a 2020 Alabama type performance offensively. And somebody like Priestcorn and Trey Harris, and maybe even if Zachary Franklin plays, once that happens, that's kind of the deal. That's something everybody should be very impressed with. I don't know if Alabama, I think the plan is in this game, make this a high-scoring game because Alabama can't match us. Weird to think of, but think about this. How many times, when was the last time that Ole Miss went into this game that had obviously the better quarterback? And the answer to that is probably Chad Kelly. Now, we didn't know about it. That was Chad's third game. But that was probably the last time it happened with them over Cooper Bateman and Jake Coker. Alabama ended up winning the national title that year. But that was probably the last year that is comparable to this season as far as quarterbacks. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to what can exactly happen, how they're going to break out. I know I'm going to talk about it whenever I do the what did we learn on Monday, and then get into keys and what to watch for. And I'm going to have multiple crossovers with people from Alabama during the course of the week. I am going to blow this week out as best I can. Going to have fun. This whole thing's about having fun. And right now, this Ole Miss football team is fun. And James McDonald drops a men's basketball question. And yes, everybody's excited for men's basketball. Probably just not for the next 2 weeks. If that makes sense. I am very excited for Chris Beard and what that group of players can do as well. Should be a whole lot of fun. But for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be all football all the time. I'm pretty fired up. I'm sitting here. Normally, I do 30-minute episodes. You know, all of my shows are about 30 minutes, and I'm sitting here about 40 right now. And, that's Zach. I like that. I like that. Zach Tyler says Dart's Heisman moment is next Saturday, and it's a chance. This could be the game that puts him on the map. The next 2 weeks are so important for Jaxson Dart. If Ole Miss beats Alabama and beats LSU, there's no telling where this thing goes after that if that happens. If that happens, this is it's just a freakish thing, okay? But if that happens, yeah, Dart will absolutely be on the table for that, because even today, whenever he threw for what was it, 70 yards in the first half, he threw for nearly 200 in the second. He was 6 of 7 for 200 yards and a touchdown in the second half. He threw the ball 19 times for the game. In the first half, he was 4 of 12. Ended up with 19. He was 10 of 19. So that'd be 6 of 7 in the second half. Somebody asked this question. Bang Bang Boogies asks, why haven't we seen Jam Griffin? He's a stud. Jam Griffin is playing. He is. He's just buried on the depth chart because we have really good players. And he is new, trying to learn the system. He has to learn what we do. This is a fairly complicated offense. That actually is a little concern that I have with Zachary Franklin. But we don't know how much Zachary has actually practiced in a black jersey. We know he's ran on the sideline, but we don't know how much he's practiced. So it should be interesting. But God bless any team trying to stop this offense that has Prescorn, Harris, and Franklin clicking. And you have Jordan Watkins in the slot, and you have Q in the backfield with Ulysses Bentley IV, with those guys back there, and Jaxson Dart doing the things that he does. God bless people trying to stop that. This is going to be Tennessee's offense at that point. This is going to be that level of explosive. And the fact that we're as explosive as we are, and we're missing half of those pieces, everybody should be pretty excited. Everybody should be real excited. And it's absolutely hilarious right now that Colorado State's about to boat race Colorado. Absolutely hilarious. Because this is personal. Micah Pettis, by the way, said Boo Boo Defu says Micah Pettis is a holding machine. Yeah, I think he's just a bigger guy. Oh, he fumbled in the 10-yard line. Zach Tyler saying HYDR, Steven firing everybody. Yeah, I warned everybody on Twitter that I would be completely insufferable tonight. And I will be. And I will be completely insufferable this week. And I can guarantee you, even though I can't promise it, I will be on College Football Kickoff Live on Friday talking about the Ole Miss Alabama game and exactly why I think that Ole Miss is going to cover and why exactly I think Ole Miss is going to win the game. Yeah, I'm going to be insufferable this week. I'm going to be insufferable for the rest of the year, honestly. And everybody can deal with it because this is fun. I want this to be fun. And right now, Ole Miss football is fun. And that's kind of the dude. That's kind of the thing. So, Dead Soxy in the house said he's super excited about this season. Love our team. They haven't put it all together yet, but the foundation is there. Absolutely. I'm going to assume that is Jason. And once the receiving pieces get into place, it is going to be nuts. Jay, that was a joke about what Dion said about the coach of the other team. He went and made the game personal. That's all. Just making fun of that. Let's see. Yep, Cody Pamp, this team has not put it all together yet. They looked explosive as heck in the fourth quarter today, and that was without everybody. Essentially everybody, other than Jordan Watkins, who had like a 70-yard touchdown. Absolutely nuts. Pretty fired up about that. And Cody Camp says there's no telling Oxford would be insane. Let Ole Miss beat Alabama and look at what Oxford becomes that next weekend. If they do the roundup thing for that weekend, the Grove Collective can make $1 million off of people. That place is going to be so packed. It will be Ole Miss Texas 2012 packed. Oxford will, if Ole Miss beats Alabama this weekend. Dead Soxy says the season starts next weekend. Yes, it should be freaking fantastic. Caden Hamlin, the Watkins was insane. Yes. I actually just do not want to quit doing this live stream. I should be wrapping this up, but I mean, this is too good. And Jason Simmons and Dead Soxy, just in there. Just in there. LSU game becomes monumental and the winner takes the West. Jason's getting fired up. Everybody's getting fired up. Yeah, game day, I almost guarantee you game day would be in Oxford next weekend if Ole Miss beats Alabama, especially that LSU. They're kind of putting it together. It should be really, really neat. So I'm going to get out of here, or else I'll stay here and talk to you guys all day. Thank you very much for watching this. And if anybody's watching this on Sunday, thank you. If you're listening to the show on the podcast, thank you. Try some Stewart's Cajun dill pickles. Wear some Dead Soxy. Those are good friends of the program and awesome friends of the show. And I want to support them. And once again, we still have the competition. We still have the competition. The first person that takes a picture of my name on Ole Miss's campus, okay, when you snap that photo and send it to me where it is, because I know what it is, I know what it looks like. Jason said that he would send a Saturday 7-pack of socks from Dead Soxy. So take a picture of that, tweet it to me, get me that stuff. The first one that does, I will get that information to Jason, and we will hook you up with the Saturday 7-pack. So that should be pretty cool. Yeah, Dead Soxy is right there. You can take a pic. If you take a picture of my name on Ole Miss's campus and send it to me, I will get that information to Jason, and he will do a Saturday 7-pack of socks. And it's fantastic. That's kind of what it looks like right there. It's good stuff. And also try Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickles. It's a locally owned thing on the coast, on the Gulf Coast, and nothing it says Saturday college football like a Stewart's Cajun Dill Pickle. They do a fantastic job, and they got this prime real estate on the microphone as our new microphone sponsor. And before I get out of here, James McDonald says, we all love your dedication and support for Ole Miss, Stephen. Yes, thank you very much for that. This is fun for me. I realize that not everybody can do this. Nobody has the time to do this. I do. I love Ole Miss, and this is fun for me. And all I want to do is to watch Ole Miss and have fun with other people who also want to have fun. And that's my whole deal. So I hope everybody has a good weekend. I think Monday, Jason Simmons is going to be on the show. I think I'm going to interview him tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, on the 17th, we'll interview Jason Simmons and talking a little bit of NIL, and it should be interesting indeed. So thanks to everybody for watching and just basically being a fan of the show. And I hope everybody has a good day, and we'll see you later. Take care and hotty toddy.